Hi, Sam, Ellie, and Charlotte. We're in Chapter 9 now of the Sasquatch Escape. This is Chapter 9, and it's titled Mr. Tabby. They stood in a big, cold room. Sparkling cobwebs crisscrossed the high ceiling. Strips of peeling white paint hung from the walls as if something very large had been sharpening its claws in the concrete. A faded sign stood on its side against the far wall next to an elevator. Two doors flanked the room. "Please forgive the mess," the man said. "We have only been here a few days. It is rather difficult to move an entire hospital." He nodded toward some moving boxes that were stacked in one corner. A pile of buttons lay in another corner next to a broom. The birdcage was nowhere to be seen. "How come you need such a big place?" Ben asked. "Worms are so small." "Well, we have one room for worms. The other rooms are for other things." The man held out his hand. "Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mr. Tabby. I am in charge of identifying and registering each patient." He shook Pearl's hand, then shook Ben's. His sharp fingernails prickled Ben's skin. "And you are?" "I'm Pearl Petal. I'm Ben Silverstein." "Well, Pearl Petal and Ben Silverstein, before we proceed, you must sign this." The man pulled out a piece of paper from his vest pocket. "I'm not supposed to sign anything without my mother or father reading it first," Pearl explained as she refused to take the pen Mr. Tabby offered. "I signed some papers once, and we ended up with a big satellite dish on our roof. I was grounded for 2 weeks. No computer, no candy, no nothing." The man wiggled the pen. "You cannot go into the identification room if you do not sign this paper. If you do not sign this paper, I will have to take the hatchling and leave you here." "I'll sign it," Ben said. He handed the cookie tin to Pearl, then he read the paper while Pearl looked over his shoulder. The paper said, "By signing this paper, I promise that I will not blame Dr. Wu for any injuries I might receive from any imaginary world or known world creature. Causes of injury include but are not limited to biting, scratching, chewing, gnawing, venomous stinging, hypnotizing, tossing, igniting, crushing, stomping, impaling, gouging, shredding, and vaporizing. Signed." "Vaporizing?" Ben asked. "Wait a minute. That sounds dangerous." "Oh, it is dangerous. Extremely dangerous. And painful." Mr. Tabby pulled out a little device from his vest pocket and typed something on its keypad. "But according to my creature calculator, there are no vaporizing creatures currently in the hospital. The odds of your being vaporized today are 0. "But what about these other things?" Ben asked. "Shredding? I don't want to be shredded." "I think crushing sounds worse," Pearl said. Mr. Tabby frowned. "I cannot guarantee your safety. That is why you must sign the paper." He held out the pen. "You cannot accompany the hatchling into the identification room unless you sign, both of you." Ben signed. Pearl hesitated, but then signed. Mr. Tabby tucked the paper into his vest pocket. "Now, if you'll please follow." A roar filled the room. The kind of roar that should be capitalized and followed by at least 3 exclamation marks. Roar! It went on for a very long time, as if the creature making the sound had the largest lungs in the world. Cobwebs drifted down from the ceiling as something stomped on the floor above. During the roar, Ben thought about all sorts of things. He thought he'd like to run in the opposite direction of the roar and keep running until he ended up back at his grandfather's house. Then he thought that he shouldn't run because that would make him look like a chicken. But then he thought that it was better to look like a chicken than to be stomped or crushed or shredded. "What was that?" Pearl asked as the roar faded. "I dare not say." Mr. Tabby smoothed out the front of his vest. "Now, on to business." As he opened the door to the identification room, he said to Ben, "Would you be so kind as to bolt the front door?" As Pearl followed Mr. Tabby into the identification room, the cookie tin still in her hands, Ben hurried across the lobby. He grabbed the deadbolt, but it wouldn't budge. He didn't have deadbolts in his house back in Los Angeles. Instead, there was a security keypad that activated an alarm system. Ben pinched his fingers, trying to slide the rusty bolt into place. After a few tries, he gave up. The door was closed. That was good enough. Besides, he didn't want to miss 1 second of whatever was going on in the other room. That is the end of Chapter 9. The next video will be of Chapter 10. Love you guys.